Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of Enduring to the End, the podcast where we explore remarkable lives of those who have been deeply shaped by their faith. I'm your host, Patricia, and today we have the privilege of hearing from Mr. Ron Hick, who this year will reach 59 years in his faith in Christ. So thanks so much for being with us today, Ron. We really appreciate your time. And would you like to start us off with your age, please?
I'm 78 years old.
Okay, and what is your background in terms of religion? How were you brought up?
As a child, my parents were not religious at all. They only went to church for weddings and christenings, but they insisted that I go to Sunday school, and it didn't matter what denomination of Sunday school, whichever. We moved around a lot, and whichever was the closest Sunday school I was sent to. Till I reached a certain age, and I just stopped going. So, but that was the early days, and no contact. Well, I say no contact with church. Although I did attend a church school for about five, 6 years. No, not that long actually, about 4 years.
Thanks for sharing, Ron. So would you consider yourself a Christian?
I do now. Certainly didn't always. I joined I was born in England, obviously. I joined the British Army and eventually went out to Germany and served in Germany. And it was while I was in Germany that I actually became converted, born again, which came as a great surprise to a British soldier at that time. But that was one of the occasions when I was really confident that God spoke to me. I heard the voice, and there was no doubt in my mind as to who it was.
Wow. So how long have you been a Christian now then?
Would have been 20 at the time, so 58 years.
So before you became a Christian, did you have someone talking to you about Christian things or who Christ was? Like, what made you make that decision?
After I had that experience of actually being spoken to, I then went and spoke to the padre of the army unit where I was stationed. I had quite long discussions with him about what it all meant. And he was very helpful, and the voice spoke to me again and said that I should leave the army and go into the Church of England ministry. So I thought long and hard about that too, but eventually left the army to go to. I went through the selection process. I was selected for the Anglican ministry and was given a place at St John's College in Durham, and left the army, and in the about 8-9 months period between leaving the army and taking up the college place, I worked at Scargill House, which was a Christian holiday and conference centre in Yorkshire, in north of England, and that was a great building experience as far as the Christian life was concerned, mingling with a lot of other quite committed Christians, and it was very different. But while I was there, I received a letter from my sister who had come out to Australia. She'd also worked at Scargill House, and she wrote me a letter saying that they were opening a Christian holiday conference centre in Australia, and she was going to be one of the founding members, and they desperately needed somebody who could hand milk cattle, maintain an estate inside and out, look after sheep, and do all those sorts of things. And the list that she put, I ticked every box for.
Wow.
So again, I spoke with the ministers at the centre, and said I felt very torn at that stage. But as one of them said to me, he said, well, sometimes God gets you from point A to point B because he wants to get you to point C in the middle. And if it seems so right, which it did, then perhaps that's what you should do. So I did. I wrote and said how about me and arranged to come out to Australia. That's why I'm in Australia. So that centre was down at Avalon Homestead in Lara, which is still going. But, so I came out to that. But not that long after, I met a lady and got engaged, got married. The community centre paid $10 a week, and you couldn't get married on $10 a week, so I had to leave there. And because I'd had all the experience of the military police, the British Army, I waltzed into the police force in Victoria in a very short space of time. I was accepted and in. So joined the Victoria Police in September 1967.
So after you became a Christian, were you discipled, or did you have any further studies in biblical things?
Not specifically. It was more a sort of, particularly at Scargill House, it was more a process of osmosis. You soaked it in because you were surrounded by it. You took a full part, you took services, you did communion, and you were part of a very vibrant Christian community. And that community was very, very strong. And as I said, you when you bathed in it, you soak it in, and it's a incredible environment.
So after, making that decision, did you notice a change in your life after becoming a Christian?
A big change. I think the biggest thing probably was the fact that I became very aware of my shortcomings, which previous to that, in typical sort of 20-year-old male form, I thought was pretty crash on anyway. But after that, I sort of realised that there was a lot more to life than just living life.
And so you've been a believer now 57 plus years?
I had an interruption, a period of interruption. I had a situation where I was living in Avondale Heights and was a member of the Anglican Church in Avondale Heights, and very active member. I ended up doing all the maintenance on the place, building things, painting things, just whatever needed doing. And a situation arose. This is Christianity at its worst, I feel. There was a member of the church who was an harmless little fellow and very, very well-meaning, but he came across and was very awkward in some situations, but a good bloke for all that. And at an annual meeting, the point was raised about the GFS, the Girls Friendly Society, was going to have to close because they had no helpers to run it. And they called for volunteers, nobody answered, so Ken, the bloke's name, he said, well, if you've got somebody in charge, I'm prepared to assist. And he was roundly abused by the wardens and members of the church. It was disgusting the way they came at him. And I stood up and sort of defended him and said, we're supposed to be a Christian organisation. We're supposed to love each other, care for each other. And here you are, you're consigning a person who, in all fairness, just put up his hand and offered to help. And you consign him to hell, basically. So the vicar's warden stood up and denounced me as being the Antichrist for daring to support him.
Wow.
So at that point, I resigned from my position at that church and sort of left. And what amazed me at the time was that after that, neither the vicar or anybody else from the church approached me to talk to me about the situation. So, as I said, to me that was an example of not so much Christianity, but the church at its worst. Yeah. And so that period, I sort of said, well, yeah, who needs a church? As long as you've got God, you can keep going. Well, that's all very well, but I found that over a period of a few years, the contact with God sort of faded away too, because I think people need fellowship as well. Yeah. And not having that fellowship, I drifted. Yeah. And drifted, I said, quite a few years. But God's got his ways and means of bringing you back into line, which eventually he did with me.
So along your journey of faith, have you had any doubts along the way? Doubts that you've made the right decision, doubts that God is real, doubts of what you believe?
No, I never really doubted God's existence. After my conversion, that was. Before that, didn't matter. But I was spoken to again. I actually went to church. This was in Gisborne. I went to church on a Sunday purely to support somebody whose brother had been in a serious accident where his girlfriend was killed in the accident, and he had a severe head injury, had a steel plate in his head, and I went to support that person and pray with them. And sitting there, with no doubt in my mind, God spoke to me again, because the address that was being given was sort of, "Hey, you, listen, this is for you," and it shook me greatly, and made me stop and reconsider what I'm doing, where I'm going, and why, and what I've been missing out on. And went back the following week and actually had a similar sort of reprise. Yes, it's you I'm talking to, and really never looked back from there. Sort of got back online, as it were, and right with it.
How important do you find Bible reading is for your personal growth?
That's an interesting point, actually. For many years, I read the Bible every morning, along with the Daily Bread, along with another book, and also some Charles Spurgeon writings too. And about 6 months ago, I think, I stopped doing it. And it's only in the last few weeks, probably since this operation actually, that I've started to think in terms of, hey, you've got to get back to doing that, which it's getting close.
Yeah. So carrying on from Bible reading, we step into prayer. Do you feel that has changed or matured as you have changed and matured in your own walk?
Oh yeah, definitely. Initially it was just a series of requests, mainly requests about me, requests for me. And as it's developed, it's more about other people than other people's needs rather than my own, although I do pray for my own needs as well, which is why I had chronic pain for 5 years with my neck and my back, and the neck got fixed last year and that chronic pain disappeared, which was an occasion of great thanksgiving. The back was fixed, 7 weeks ago, And likewise, although I've still got the pain from the operation and the stiffness and issues, that chronic pain that I've had for 5 years has gone. And again, an occasion to a great Thanksgiving, which is probably part of the reason that I'm feeling the need to get back to my daily reading, is because it's a prayer that's been answered, and I think prayers get answered, you've got responsibilities.
Okay, and just changing the topic a little bit. So as we talk about maturing in our faith, we also start maturing in our life. And as we come to the end of our life, a lot of people have questions about the afterlife. So just to ask you, what do you think happens when a person dies?
A little bit controversial. I don't think that you're dressed in white and lifted up and you're standing in a great hall sort of thing. I think that what happens is that you become part of God's presence, of God's reality. You become a part of that.
And does that worry you or scare you at all, the thoughts of what's to come?
I don't have any fear of death, because I believe I know where I'm going. I've been a military policeman, a Victorian policeman, and then a nurse for 12 years. And I've seen a lot of different deaths or ways of dying, and I'm not 100% comfortable with the manner of death, but no problems about death itself. But if you've seen people in a situation with where they sort of had to go into palliative care, I've got no desire to drag on in pain for an extended period, but you don't actually have much choice over that. But as I said, I believe I know where I'm going, so it doesn't worry me from that point of view.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on that. So do you have any advice or encouragement for the next generation of believers who are wanting that long-term relationship with Christ?
I actually have a lot of fear for the next generation of believers, because there is so much pressure in our developed societies to follow the ways of mammon rather than the ways of God. That it's the keep up with the Joneses mentality. It makes it very difficult. You've only got to look at the churches today. Mostly they're losing people. Younger people aren't coming on, aren't growing in the faith. Not all by any means, but a lot of people aren't, and it concerns me that the church is going to continue to dwindle. But I look at churches overseas, the places where they're oppressed, and they're growing furiously under the oppression. And I think that possibly our problem is we've got it too damn easy, too soft, and without that oppression, people don't see the need to look for something higher, more important. And it worries me.
So would you have any advice then on how someone could grow their faith in these difficult times?
I don't really. To be honest, I've sort of enough trouble growing my own, and I find it difficult to. When I was at Scoutgill, for instance, I used to run services, give addresses, all that sort of thing, and the nature of the thing was you also counselled other people, and that was it was a good time. But these days, I find it very hard to counsel people, not because I lack my faith, but because I find it really difficult to talk to people and relate to people who don't have any faith, and don't really want any. What they want is more goods and chattels, more money, and faith just not in their order book. So I find that difficult.
So I just wanted to come back to a question I had before. Have you had any moments in your life where you can say, wow, that was God? Without a doubt, that was God in my life.
Yeah, a number of occasions. One very important one is sitting next to me, and I think that was definitely a God inspired, because at that time I was here living by myself. I'd moved up here, and I'd been married twice before, and I was never again resigned to a single life. That's why I moved here, and I think got a different ideas, and here we are.
How long have you been married now?
6 years.
6 years. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, and is there any last things that you would like to share before we wrap up here?
Just that I think the faith journey is a very personal one, and maybe for some people it's an easy road, but for a lot of people it's not an easy road, and you need to be able to, how would you put it, fight off the attacks of the evil one, and look to God for assistance in doing that, and just keep the end in view, and don't let little things get in the way of your journey.
Thank you again, Ron, for your time, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of our podcast. We hope you've been inspired and uplifted by the incredible story of Ron and his unwavering faith in God's faithfulness. Despite facing adversity and significant changes in his life, Ron has remained steadfast in his belief, finding strength and resilience through his relationship with God. We encourage you to reflect on Ron's story and seek solace in your own faith journey. May you find encouragement and strength in the knowledge that just like Ron, you're never alone in your struggles. Join us next time as we continue to explore stories of faith, resilience, and the power of God. May the Lord bless you.